What if the world finally admitted that the transatlantic slave trade was the greatest crime against humanity? And what if Africa demanded not just apologies, but reparations and the return of its stolen heritage? That moment might be just around the corner. Africa, with Ghana leading the charge, is getting ready to submit a historic resolution to the United Nations. But here's the brutally honest question we need to ask. Will justice finally be delivered, or will global power politics bury it once and for all? Let's open our eyes to what's really happening under the leadership of President John Mahama. All African Union states have unanimously backed a bold and powerful initiative. They want to officially declare the transatlantic slave trade the gravest crime ever committed against humanity, and with that declaration they are making three key demands: reparations for the economic and social damage, restitution for the historical injustices, and the return of looted African cultural objects currently scattered in museums across the world. The plan is to move this resolution from the African Union, gain backing from the Caribbean nations through CARICOM, and then present it to the United Nations General Assembly with a target date of March 2026. On paper, this sounds monumental, a true turning point in history, but we know that geopolitics isn't decided on paper, it's decided by power. Let's just pause and think about the sheer scale of the transatlantic slave trade. It lasted for over 400 years. More than 12 million Africans were captured and enslaved. Entire regions were depopulated, vibrant societies were shattered, and families were torn apart. At the same time, this horrific system fueled the industrial wealth of the West and systematically underdeveloped the African continent. The global inequalities we see today are not an accident. They are a direct result of this history. Europe and the Americas built their capital on the backs of enslaved African labor. Meanwhile, Africa lost its people, its skills, its stability, and crucial time for development. Morally, the argument for reparations is incredibly strong. It's undeniable. But global decisions are rarely made on morality alone. They are made based on power and self-interest. So if this resolution actually makes it to the floor of the UN General Assembly, what can we realistically expect to happen? Let's break down the likely outcomes. First, symbolic recognition is very possible, but what weight will that carry, and how does that benefit Africa? The UN might pass a resolution acknowledging the slave trade as a grave historical injustice. Why? Because this costs powerful nations nothing. They can use carefully chosen words to show they agree in principle without committing to any real action. So, symbolic language has a good chance of passing. Second, binding reparations will face massive resistance. This is where things get complicated. Reparations create legal liability, they create a financial obligation, and perhaps, most importantly, they set a precedent. If reparations for slavery are approved, what comes next? Claims for colonial exploitation, claims from indigenous peoples around the world, a flood of global restitution cases. This would open up an enormous, potentially trillions of dollars-sized financial exposure for Western states. Because of this, any language calling for binding reparations will almost certainly be diluted, delayed, or blocked entirely. Third, the return of looted objects has the best chance of success. This is probably the most realistic win for Africa. The movement for museum restitution is already gaining political momentum. We're already seeing European institutions starting to return some African artifacts. So this part of the resolution is building on an existing trend and is likely to find support. Let's be brutally honest here. Western governments won't oppose reparations because the history is unclear or debatable, but they will oppose them because the consequences are enormous. If you were to seriously calculate the value of reparations, the figures could easily reach into the trillions, and paying reparations is more than just a financial transaction. It's an admission of the obvious on so many levels, and that comes with so much leverage for the continent of Africa. It's an acknowledgement of historical exploitation, of a structural advantage that continues to this day, and a deep moral debt. That kind of admission completely reshapes global narratives. It challenges the comfortable idea that Western wealth was purely earned through hard work and innovation. It forces the world to recognize that the dispossession of Africa was a foundational element of global capitalism, and that is politically explosive. So the resistance will be sophisticated. It won't be a simple no, it will come in the form of complex legal arguments, endless procedural delays, and attempts at historical distancing. We'll hear arguments like, modern states can't be held responsible for the actions of past centuries. The ultimate goal will be to offer recognition without any real obligation, but even without immediate financial reparations, this initiative is incredibly important. Why? Because it reframes history on a global stage. It asserts Africa's voice in the international moral conversation. It strengthens the crucial solidarity between Africa and the Caribbean. Let that sink in for just a moment. Imagine the intensity and the weight that a growing and serious Afro-Caribbean interaction means for Africa and the Caribbeans. It directly challenges the old colonial narratives that have dominated for so long. And it reinforces the growing demands for cultural restitution, historical accountability, and a more equitable global system. This is what we call narrative power, and powerful narratives have the ability to reshape politics over time. Now, knowing this and judging from past experiences as well as what is at stake here, let's reason this out together. There is so much to dissect here. The question is, what can Africa expect from all of this? So here is the most likely long-term reality. Financial reparations, unlikely to happen anytime soon. Moral recognition, possible in a symbolic form, the return of artifacts. That's increasingly likely, and the shift in the global debate, that's already happening. This resolution may not transform the flow of wealth overnight, but it will transform legitimacy, and legitimacy is the very foundation of the global order. Africa is not just asking for money. Africa is demanding that the historical truth be recognized at the highest possible level, and that act in itself has the power to change the world. So what do you think? Do you believe Africa deserves reparations for slavery and colonial exploitation? Or do you think the past is the past and cannot be compensated? Tell us your honest thoughts in the comments below, because Africa's future must be built with open eyes. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more clear, fearless analysis of the issues shaping Africa.